During Barack Obama's presidency, he did all that he could to compromise America's sovereignty and weaken our country with disgusting policies that favored our enemies around the world. Not only did Obama allow floods of refugees and illegal immigrants to swarm over our borders in an attempt to fundamentally transform America, but he also paid Muslim countries to hate us with exorbitant foreign aid. Now, after 8 years of witnessing Obama's disgusting policies ruin our nation, President Trump is in charge and is stopping what his predecessor did and finally putting America first. Before the end of 2017, the left and the majority of Muslim world lost their minds when President Trump formally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and pledged he would move the United States Embassy to that location. Predictably, the left went into a meltdown, not to mention the Muslim world, promising more bloodshed and attacks on the small nation. Soon after the announcement, the United Nations, who has a long history of animosity toward Israel, voted overwhelming to reject Trump's recognition of Israel's capital. Soon after the United Nations cast this disrespectful vote, President Trump took immediate action and withheld $285 million, the most significant budget cut in UN history, and that is not all. Just a few days into the new year, Trump is ensuring that those who disrespect the United States and our ally Israel, they will no longer receive a dime from us, and next, on the chopping block is Palestine. For years, Palestine has been on the government dole all while they pledge to harm Americans and the Israeli people. Also, what has made it worse is that for the last 8 years, leftist propaganda has many young people sympathize with the Palestinian regime instead of realizing the harm these people have caused for decades. Finally, after years of Israel being pushed aside and treated poorly by the Obama administration, President Trump is taking a stand against Palestine in a big way. Earlier today, Trump took to Twitter and announced that he might cease all foreign aid to Palestine until they move forward with working towards peace with Israel, and you can bet that the Muslim world is not happy. It's not only Pakistan that we pay billions of dollars to for nothing, but also many other countries, and others. As an example, we pay the Palestinians hundreds of millions of dollars a year and get no appreciation or respect. They don't even want to negotiate a long overdue, Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump, January 2, 2018, peace treaty with Israel. We have taken Jerusalem, the toughest part of the negotiation, off the table, but Israel, for that, would have had to pay more. But with the Palestinians no longer willing to talk peace, why should we make any of these massive future payments to them? Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump, January 2, 2018. Here is more from Associated Press. Trump infuriated Palestinians and Muslims across the Middle East when he announced late last year that the U.S. would consider Jerusalem the capital of Israel and move its embassy there, appending decades of U.S. policy and igniting protests. While the Palestinians haven't closed the door to a potential deal with Israel, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas said the announcement had destroyed Trump's credibility as a Mideast peace broker, calling the decision a declaration of withdrawal from the role it has played in the peace process. Senior Palestinian leader Hanan Ishrawi said in a statement Wednesday that Trump had single-handedly destroyed the very foundations of peace with his Jerusalem declaration. Tuesday's tweets are a tacit admission by Trump that his decision to move the U.S. embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem has thrown a wrench into his administration's plans to restart the peace process between Israelis and Palestinians, which he had dubbed the ultimate deal. Trump tasked son-in-law Jared Kushner with restarting the effort, and brought his former attorney, Jason Greenblatt, into the White House to lead the negotiations. Trump's Mideast peace team had held meetings with Israeli, Palestinian and Arab leaders for nearly a year ahead of an expected peace proposal. But by recognizing Israel's claim to Jerusalem, Trump was seen by the Palestinians as siding with Israel on the most sensitive issue in the conflict. The Palestinians seek East Jerusalem, which Israel captured in 1967, for their capital. Trump said his decision merely recognized the reality that Jerusalem already serves as Israel's capital and wasn't meant to prejudge the final borders of the city. In his tweets, Trump argued his decision had taken Jerusalem, the toughest part of the negotiation, off the table, but Israel, for that, would have had to pay more. When Trump declared Jerusalem to be Israel's capital, he insisted, counterintuitively, that the move would improve, not hurt, prospects for clinching a peace deal. In the days after the decision, Trump administration officials said the strategy was based on the notion that Israel had lost faith in the U.S. as a committed partner during the Obama administration. With trust in Washington restored, Benjamin Netanyahu's government would be more inclined going forward to make tough concessions that would ultimately be needed for a peace deal. The U.S. Officials argued at the time, and Israeli officials quietly indicated that they could potentially do so. No one spelled out, however, what the Palestinians would receive in return. Trump on Tuesday also issued a threat to cut off foreign aid dollars to an unspecified list of countries that don't reciprocate. In all honesty, there is no reason why the American taxpayer should have to hand over their hard-earned money to countries that seek to destroy us. There is no doubt that the vast majority of the world would love to see peace in the Middle East, but if the Palestine government is not willing to make those steps forward, then they should not receive any more aid. Our country is dead up to our eyeballs, and it is the time that we stop sending money to countries that are not willing to compromise for peace. Maybe now this will push Palestine and other Muslim nations to take us seriously and begin to move forward with peace talks with Israel. HTAP, follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily. We have no tolerance for comments containing violence, racism, vulgarity, profanity, all caps, or discourteous behavior. Thank you for partnering with us to maintain a courteous and useful public environment where we can engage in reasonable discourse. It's common knowledge that when you put good in, you get good out. That's true on many levels, but none so literal as with what we put in our bodies. We were designed to survive and thrive off of what the earth provides for us, but the production of those life-giving substances has turned into such a finely tuned machine that prioritizes profit and taste that we've lost a lot of what was good for us along the way. One of the biggest steps backward for the health of the Western world was the introduction of GMO foods, or any food that is genetically modified in order to live even with poison sprayed on them. The purpose of this is to keep the food growing when the plants are sprayed for bugs, weeds, etc. Unfortunately, that means that things like Roundup are actually being put into our foods so that they'll be immune to being sprayed with it. As you can imagine, that's not great for your system. McDonald's Corporation is the largest dealer of GMOs, according to your Newswire, and according to recent reports, the Golden Arches have been seeing less green pass through them because of this information. The national awareness that GMOs could be contributing to the bad health of this generation is finally affecting the fast food superstars' bottom line. In fact, what is being served by the once beloved clown and his coworkers is hardly even being regarded as food anymore. McDonald's recently launched a PR campaign called Our Food, Your Questions to reassure customers that their frankenfoods are safe for human consumption. Unfortunately for McDonald's, their campaign backfired spectacularly. While the company still denies they use pink slime in their burgers, they were forced to admit using some highly questionable ingredients that would be more at home in a science experiment than on the dinner plate of a growing child. During the Our Food, Your Questions campaign, McDonald's admitted to using the chemical additive azodicarbonamide in their burger buns, which is the exact same substance found in yoga mats. Naturally, the world's leading frankenfoods dealer insisted that adding rubber to food is quite safe. According to McDonald's, there are varied uses for azodicarbonamide, including in some non-food products, such as yoga mats. As a result, some people have suggested our food contains rubber or plastic, or that the ingredient is unsafe. Think of salt. The salt you use in your food at home is a variation of the salt you may use to de-ice your sidewalk. The same is true of Ada. It can be used in different ways. I guess that was supposed to make us feel better, but there really is a slight flaw in that logic. Just because food products can be used in an industrial capacity, doesn't mean that industrial products should be used in a food-type capacity. You want to salt the front steps with Morton salt? Fine, just don't put a yoga mat in my rock salt grinder, as one being okay doesn't make the other okay. These revelations are having far-reaching impacts on the take-home pay for the corroboration. AP reports that stores are closing nationwide, and profit margins are slimming down, unlike the waistlines of those who eat their food. According to an Associated Press review of the corporation's regulatory filings, McDonald's closed over 700 stores last year and suffered an 11% decrease in revenue and 30% drop in profit. For corporations the size of McDonald's, operating on slim profit margins, falls in profit of 2 to 3% can have enormous ramifications. 30%? We are talking irreversible terminal decline, according to industry experts. But maybe you think that there's to be some margin for error. Maybe the oddly shaped and pressed meat products should be a red flag, but we can stick with the pure, natural, one-ingredient foods like French fries. We can all make French fries. It's just potatoes, salt, and frying oil. Maybe that's how you make French fries, but that's not how Mickey D's makes them. French fries are actually comprised of 19 shocking ingredients. The staple side dish is basically a laboratory experiment in creating an item that looks and tastes like a potato product but is actually a chemically engineered concoction of GMOs, trans fats, chemical stabilizers, preservatives, wheat, milk, and beef derivatives, as well as poisonous additives derived from petroleum and silicone. Future generations will look back at McDonald's with horror. They will be astonished that the multinational corporation was allowed by the FDA to perform what is essentially a sick and twisted science experiment on the world's population, damaging the health of millions of unsuspecting people in the process. McDonald's aimed their advertising squarely at children and adolescents, trying to hook them on their chemical-laden addictive products while they are young and vulnerable, and all in the name of profit over all else. May we learn the error of our ways sooner rather than later and save our collective health while we still can. The honest truth is that you'd probably be better off to eat cane sugar out of the bag standing over the sink than to feel happy eating a Happy Meal. McDonald's had its time, and that is now past. Make the decision that is best for your health and drive past the drive-thru and onto the farmer's market, or even the meat market, or anywhere that doesn't serve GMOs and slime. HT, your news wire, the truth is out. This is huge. What is the statute of limitations on someone's ineligibility to be the President of the United States? It's not an issue that comes up very often, but senatorial candidate Sheriff Joe Arpaio wants to find out. Sadly, there is still doubt as to whether former President Obama should have been qualified to run for president and rule the country for 8 years. Even though Obama is no longer in office, there's still crusaders for justice like Sheriff Arpaio who aren't ready to give it up. If Obama pulled the wool over our eyes, then he needs to be prosecuted for that grievous offense. Obama probably didn't consider Arpaio to be much of a threat considering the trumped-up discrimination charges that were laid on him when he effectively did his job. A new day has dawned on the Trump administration. Not only has Arpaio been pardoned, but he's planning to run for United States Senate. Obama is at the top of his problem list. Daily Mail reports that Arpaio is not quite as harmless as Obama might have wished. Not only is he pursuing the issue post-pardon, but he claims to have the evidence that he needs. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Joe Arpaio rebooted the anti-Obama birther movement on Wednesday, renewing his claim that the former president's birth certificate is a phony document. No doubt about it. We have the evidence, the former Arizona sheriff said on CNN. The Republican is running for the Senate seat being vacated by Sen. Jeff Flake. Arpaio was a staunch supporter of President Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign, and Trump showed his gratitude by pardoning him in August following a contempt of court conviction. Like many of the things that are important to Americans, this isn't just a campaign issue for President Trump, and this is something that he and many of us were worried about well before it became about the 2016 election. Trump himself was an early proponent of the birther movement, tweeting nearly 70 times about his suspicion that the long-form birth certificate produced by Obama was fraudulent. 3 months before Obama's 2012 re-election, he tweeted, "An extremely credible source has called my office and told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is a fraud." Late in the 2016 campaign, Trump disavowed his earlier beliefs. But Arpaio told CNN that the president was right the first time around. "We have the evidence," Arpaio said, while declining to provide details. "Nobody will talk about it, nobody will look at it, and anytime you want to come down, or anybody, we'll be glad to show you the evidence." Back in 2012, well before President Trump was in the running for president, here's what he had to say about the Obama birthplace scandal. Host Chris Cuomo pressed Arpaio, "So you believe that President Obama's birth certificate is a phony?" "No doubt about it," Arpaio said. Obama's birth certificate, which his campaign produced in response to Trump's years-long badgering, shows he was born in Hawaii. Birther advocates seized on a book proposal from Obama's days as a young community organizer, which said he was born in Kenya. If that had been true, Obama would have been constitutionally ineligible to serve as President of the United States. As Sheriff of Maricopa County, Arizona, Arpaio launched an effort in 2011 to prove that Obama was born outside the U.S., in what his critics called a shameless, sick attempt to raise money for his re-election effort. He closed his investigation in 2016 without being able to prove what he set out to establish. Arpaio had been fixated on the investigation for years, even a deputy and member of his volunteer posse to Hawaii to question officials. In 2016, he complained to a crowd of about 75 supporters that his claims about the birth certificate weren't taken seriously. "We and anyone else who dared to question the document have been maligned, falsely labeled and grossly criticized, he said, then, refusing to take questions from reporters. Dubbed America's toughest sheriff, Arpaio was best known for running a tent-city jail in Arizona's populous Maricopa County, and for targeting suspected illegal immigrants for arrest. He tweeted, "I am running for the U.S. Senate from the great state of Arizona, for one unwavering reason, to support the agenda and policies of President Donald Trump in his mission to make America great again. No matter what your political affiliation, you should be interested in the President of the United States being constitutionally qualified for the job. If someone intentionally tries to circumvent the Constitution while lying to the American people about it, then that is problematic on many levels." Sheriff Joe is hopeful that he can make Obama pay. If he's guilty of creating a false birth certificate, then that it will deter anyone else with the same illegal ambition. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily. Someone hand her a tissue. This is what happens when you are a United States Senator but should instead be running the weekly bingo event at a senior care facility. In what is being labeled as more shenanigans from the Democratic Party, the anti-Second Amendment Senator Dianne Feinstein of California appeared to blame a bad cold for the controversial way she handled the unlawful release of an interview transcript with the co-founder of the firm behind the anti-Trump dossier, Fusion GPS. The California senator and top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee caused quite a mess when committee chairman Chuck Grassley, Iowa, found out she had released this transcript earlier this week without consulting and getting the approval from him first. In a later interview, Senator Feinstein confirmed to a reporter that she regrets not speaking to Grassley beforehand. And of all things, she blamed her cold as a possible factor for her misdeed. She went on to say that the one regret she had was that she should have spoken with Senator Grassley before releasing the transcripts, and that she makes no excuse but only that she had a bad cold that maybe slowed down her mental facilities a little bit. Fox News reports, Trump blasts sneaky Dianne Feinstein for releasing Fusion GPS transcript. President Trump slammed sneaky Dianne Feinstein Wednesday after the Democratic senator released the transcript of a congressional interview with the co-founder of the firm behind the anti-Trump dossier, claiming the move was possibly illegal. The fact that sneaky Dianne Feinstein, who has on numerous occasions stated that collusion between Trump, Russia has not been found, would release testimony in such an underhanded and possibly illegal way, totally without authorization, is a disgrace. Must have tough primary, Trump tweeted Wednesday. Feinstein, D. Califf, the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee, unilaterally released the 312-page transcript of Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson's August interview with committee investigators. The release provoked controversy on Capitol Hill, with a spokesman for committee chairman Chuck Grassley, Iowa, slamming Feinstein's move as confounding. Spokesman Taylor Foy said she made the decision without consulting the chairman and warned the move jeopardized other highly sought witness testimony. Feinstein unilaterally releases transcript of Glenn Simpson on Trump dossier. Feinstein, who faces re-election this year, said she released the transcript because the American people deserve the opportunity to see what he said and judge for themselves. Moments after Trump slammed Feinstein, he then returned to bashing the ongoing Russia investigation. The single greatest witch hunt in American history continues. There was no collusion. Everybody, including the Democrats, knows there was no collusion, but yet on and on it goes. Russia and the world are laughing at the stupidity they are witnessing. Republicans should finally take control. Trump tweeted. The president's tweets come as his lawyers prepare for the possibility that special counsel Robert Mueller's team will ask to conduct an interview with Trump himself as part of the Russia probe. At this point, there has been no official request by Mueller's office to interview the president. It is possible an interview will not take place. Trump's lawyers consider possible interview of president by Mueller team, but Feinstein's release of the testimony drew attention back to all things Russia. The hundreds of pages of Simpson's responses were rich with revelations about Fusion GPS, its work and its investigation into Trump, which began in September 2015. One passage, in particular, drew heavy attention, where Simpson's lawyer claimed someone had been killed over the dossier's publication. He wants to be very careful to protect his sources, Simpson's attorney Josh Levy said during the August 22 committee interview. Somebody's already been killed as a result of the publication of this dossier, and no harm should come to anybody related to this honest work. Somebody's already been killed because of the dossier, Fusion GPS rep revealed. Levy did not elaborate on who was killed, and congressional investigators did not follow up with any questions about his claim. Neither a spokesperson for Grassley nor Feinstein responded to Fox News' request for comment on why investigators did not follow up with questions on the serious charge made by Levy. The dossier was written by former British MI6 agent Christopher Steele. Fusion GPS, which hired Steele, was funded by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. The findings eventually made their way to the FBI. The dossier was published on BuzzFeed News in January 2017. The fact that sneaky Dianne Feinstein, who has on numerous occasions stated that collusion between Trump, Russia has not been found, would release testimony in such an underhanded and possibly illegal way, totally without authorization, is a disgrace. Must have tough primary. Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump, January 10, 2018. What is this? A sitting United States senator is blaming a cold for breaking the law by releasing a document which should have stayed confidential, at least for the time being. This woman should be committed. How many of us can make a huge mistake like this in our job or business and still have our jobs? This woman should do the correct thing and resign. It's apparent she should be nowhere near any position of power. This woman should have retired from public office 20 years ago. Please share if you agree Senator Feinstein should resign immediately. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily.